suicide. Confederate soldiers marching across a mile of open ground, right into their guns.
Thank you.
Union fire blew them to pieces.
Oh, bitch.
Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle of the war. 51,000 men on both sides were killed, wounded, or captured in just 3 days. But Meade had won. The Confederate invasion of the North had been stopped, and Lee had suffered such losses that it seemed doubtful he would ever be able to mount another.
This victory marked and that was the last major invasion of the North.
On the evening of July 4th, the White House was lit with candles in honor of the victory at Gettysburg, and Vicksburg had surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant that
Hello.
morning. When the Secretary of the Navy brought Lincoln the news, the President leaped up and hugged him. "I cannot tell you in words my joy over this result," Lincoln said. "It is great. It is great. If General Meade can complete his work, the rebellion will be over." But Lincoln soon received devastating news. Meade had failed to catch the crippled Confederate army.
As Lincoln said later, we had them in the hollow of our hands, and we didn't close the hand.
That evening, Robert Lincoln dropped by the president's office. He found his father alone, his head resting on his desk. When Lincoln looked up, his eyes were filled with tears.
If I had gone up there, I could have whipped them myself.
By the summer of 1863, black soldiers had joined the struggle against the rebel armies. The colored population, Lincoln said, is the great available and yet unavailed of force for restoring the Union.
People sound mad in
The
the
president
kitchen.
was now encouraging the massive recruitment of black soldiers. He had once been reluctant even to consider enlisting them.
The question for him was, would Northerners fight with black men? Would white Northerners fight with black men?
44 black soldiers died trying to take Port Hudson. 133 were wounded. Their valor moved Lincoln to begin to see black Americans in a new light.
He realizes that African Americans will fight, and I
Hello.
think it creates a new respect for African American manhood that Lincoln really didn't have before. He also, however, was aware of white attitudes. He had agreed that it would be best that African Americans be paid less.
Hello.
So again, we are faced
So
with
what
this
we're doing
contradiction.
is,
He
I'll
wanted
take a
to
piece that
see them as
I just
equal,
did,
but
is I have all these scraps
he didn't feel
I
the
can't
country
really do
was
anything
ready,
with, and
or
I'm
perhaps
using
he
up a
himself
bunch of my
wasn't.
fabric right now. And so I'm sewing them together, and then I'm
That
sewing the
summer,
bottoms,
Lincoln
the
met
back
for the
stitch
first
flat.
time with Frederick Douglass,
So it looks
the
like
former
that.
slave who had become the best-known black spokesman in America.
Lincoln had
I'm
never
doing that a lot.
met an African American who was as erudite and as knowledgeable and as forward in his conversation as Frederick Douglass.
Douglass urged equal treatment for African American fighting men, equal pay, and equal opportunity for promotion. Lincoln said he had to move with caution, that the enlistment of black soldiers was still a serious offense to popular prejudice. I was well satisfied with the man and with the educating tendency not entirely satisfy anyone.
Even some of Lincoln's supporters used terms like Lincoln has the nigger on his mind. They thought this war was all about bringing the country back together. Now it's become a war to
Hi.
liberate slaves.
Meanwhile, Congress had passed a law calling for young men to be drafted.
Americans are going to be drafted to accomplish something that they do not support, and that is emancipation. When you combine emancipation and conscription together, you get a very violent mix.
That summer, mobs of poor Irish immigrants, enraged by the draft, took over most of New York City's east side for 3 days,
I wonder why.
burning and looting, beating and lynching African Americans.
Jackasses.
African Americans in New York City were incinerated. A black orphanage was burned to the ground. Policemen or anyone who tried to help them was also attacked.
Irish immigrants don't want to fight free black slaves who will challenge them for their job.
I did already answer it. I'm not sewing something in particular. I just have a bunch of scraps. And what we're doing is
More
we're
than
sewing the
100
nicer
people died
sides
before it was
together.
over.
So that's the outer.
It had been the
And then
worst
I'm
riot in the
sewing, if
nation's
you can
history.
see it, a stitch down to stitch down the seam.
6
because-
days after the riots began,
Well, I have all these little
600
scraps I
soldiers
don't
in the
use
all-black
because they're
Massachusetts
non-usable, so
54th
I'm
Regiment
making them usable.
stormed Fort Wagner in Charleston Harbor.
I think I learned this from
More
quilting,
than half
if
were
I'm
killed
remembering
or
correctly
wounded.
how to do this. Because my mom used to have a friend who quilted, and she taught me a bunch of stuff about sewing.
There will be some
Because
black
quilting's
men who can
a
remember
fucking
that with
nuts,
silent
dude.
tongue and clenched teeth
Thank you.
and a steady eye.
And so I've been,
well-poised
let me show you my
hand,
little progress.
they have
I've been
helped
making
mankind
a doll
overcome
replication
great
of
consummation.
Dobby from My Hero Academia.
While
And
I
so
fear
all
that
his
there
little
will be
clothes
some
are
white ones
made
unable to forget
from scraps
that with
in my
malignant heart
box.
and deceitful speech, they have strove to hinder.
He's gonna have hair, I promise. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But then I'm making a big version of him, and he needs clothes too. So we're getting a head start on that.
Special way. And if blacks are going to be a part of the union, then perhaps there are some things that they're entitled to. Like
Thank you.
privilege and
I
opportunity.
cosplay him kind of a lot. I haven't in recent times just because I've been making the fucking doll. But let me show
I
you.
think those are the things that Lincoln began to think
Um,
about almost immediately.
Here's his arms
And seriously.
for the big version. That's going to be life size. He's also going to have joints. He's gonna have two outfits.
Can be citizens. In every sense of the term.
he's gonna have his daytime outfit, and then I might make his little sleepy outfit. Oh, thank you. It's just cut up plastic bags crocheted together, if you can tell. Which I think is like the most wonderful
By August,
texture in the
Mary
world.
Lincoln had recovered from the carriage
It's literally
accident.
just cut up plastic bags
She
crocheted
traveled
together.
north with her 10-year-old son Tad, away from the Washington.
Oh, dude, no joke. This is just my hand.
to the White
It's just my
Mountains of New
hand
Hampshire.
added another inch. Because I'm in proportion. I'm very small, and so I
Lincoln
just
sent her the
I just
latest
used
news
me.
from the battlefield
a bunch
and
of
from the home
things.
front too.
But yeah, so he's crocheted with plastic. Oh, I spit on him. Sorry, Dobby. I crocheted him with plastic bags, and I actually made a YouTube video on how to do that for his hands and then also his feet. I'm gonna slowly make more videos as he grows. But yeah, and then so it's going to be life size. So I'm 5 foot. It's gonna be like 9 to 10 inches taller than me.
Affectionately, A. Lincoln.
Which is kind of really tall.
On November 18th, 1863, Abraham Lincoln was on his way to
Oh, dude,
Gettysburg,
it's so
Pennsylvania.
easy. It's so easy. Literally, because all you really need is a crochet hook and grocery bags. That's literally grocery bags. That's how I make my purse too. That's how I made my purse. I have a few shirts like that. Just look up how to if you don't know how to crochet and you want to do the Dobby thing. Just look up how to do a single crochet. And then I also have filmed quite a few videos of me cutting up bags. I can always re-upload those too for people to use. But it's so easy. I would argue it's easier than with yarn.
It was not expected that he would say anything.
I've also been doing it for like 5 years.
The great Massachusetts orator was going to speak.
This is what I do all day. I graduated high school early and I'm 19 now and I don't have a license. So I just make stuff all the time.
That evening, while a crowd sang outside his window, the president worked over the speech he had been writing and rewriting.
He could make a document sound exactly as he thought it should sound, and he does it as a matter of conscious manipulation.
I love recycling so much. It's my passion in this world. My goal in life is to not die until world peace and global warming has been like ended. So I literally don't want to die until that's like ended completely. I love recycling. Love it.
Exactly how he proved
It's so
that
much
he
fun.
did
I think it's so much fun.
is,
My mom has OCD and it drives her nuts.
Late that evening, a messenger knocked on Lincoln's door. He handed the president a
Thank
telegram.
you.
Honorable A. Lincoln, the
Thank
doctor
you.
has just left. We hope dear Teddy is slightly better. We'll
Thank
send
you,
a
thank
telegram
you.
in the morning.
But here's how that went. This is now 3 pieces stitched together.
The relieved president went to sleep.
So I wouldn't have been able to use these pieces because they're so small, but now I can use them for like a little panel or something.
Cannon
This
woke
is my baby
Gettysburg
sewing
the next
machine.
morning.
She's so tiny.
Thousands watched Lincoln and
It's
the other
hysterical.
dignitaries ride along
But
the
yeah,
platform to the
crocheting
cemetery.
with plastic bags is arguably really easy. It's also a really good way to recycle things like your plastic bags and water bottle casings and your neighbor's plastic bags and stuff. When I was in school,
At 2 o'clock,
thank you.
Lincoln was
When I was in
introduced to the
school,
class.
I did that during my classes, freshman and
He wanted to
freshman
express
year
in his own way
and
the meaning of
the rest of high school.
sacrifices the
I was only in
Union
high school
had
2 years because I got through it so easily.
Ground was still soggy
But
from
so I did it during my classes, so I would have a big ball of what's called plarn, which sounds like porn. So I would just say it's cut up plastic bags in my purse with a hook, and I'd just be walking through the halls like this, like holding my water bottle, just.
and what the goals of the war by that point had become, namely preserving.
I learned it in COVID, and I think it took me maybe a day. I'm not even joking. Granted, I'm a fast learner, so for you it might take like a week, but it's really easy. Honestly, you just need to learn how to do a single crochet and a half double, like a half crochet.
All men are created equal.
Because that's all I use for these. That's the only hook, the only crochet things I did for this was a single crochet, which is the easiest one to learn and the starter of every single pattern you ever use, and a half double crochet, which I just use as an increase and a decrease, basically. And that's just how I made that. I'm honestly thinking about doing spinner too, just so I can learn how to like do the more angular, animalistic almost faces and stuff. And I love Spinner. If I ever date a man, a real man, I would want him to be like Spinner.
A new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Oh, dude, literally.
Equating what's happening at that time.
I did for the hands, like 3 weeks ago. I think it's called I crocheted a hand out of plastic bags, and I'm very awkward thinking of it. And then I made one for the feet too. The feet's really awkward because I keep trying to show my foot, but I don't want to show my foot. But I have 2 feet now. Here's one. They don't look identical, I'll tell you right now. But they're feet, so I'm just gonna make them proportionate next time. And then here's the other foot, which is arguably so much better.
In a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who
So yeah, the tutorial for this is up, and the tutorial for the hands is up. And I'll make a tutorial on how to make the tiny dobby next time, because I'm still trying to figure out like the proportions. This is decently easy because it's the size of me, just bigger.
It is for us to live in, rather,
Thank you.
to be dedicated here.
Let me get some more
to the
coffee.
unfinished work, which they who fought here
But yeah,
have thus far
it's really not that hard. I would say it might take you double the time it took me. But by the time you're doing the second one, you're like on the normal time. It's really easy, honestly. I would love, just as someone who loves the planet and recycling and stuff, for there to be this big uprising of people crocheting lifestyle versions of the characters they love, and I would love to be tagged in all that. I want a fucking uprising of it. Come on, guys, let's recycle like a motherfucker. I would love it. Thank you. I shouldn't put that there. We're gonna find more scraps to attach, like my little pile over here.
He has spoken for only 3 minutes. Just 10 seconds.
I have piles going on.
272
If you're
words.
artsy, you know.
But Lincoln had changed the meaning of the war.
Oh, I should cut this off.
It was only after the war dragged on and on
But
and
yeah,
on
I
that we
have
began to
a bunch of
understand that
tutorials
the
up.
only way it would reach an end would be by having blood
And then I might have a tutorial up. Not the next video, but the video after that. I don't know. Of what though?
The war was not simply to reconcile the people from the South into the Union as it was, but rather, as he expressed at Gettysburg, it would be to create a wholly different, a new nation out of all the blood that had been spent. He gave the struggle.
The only method I can think of that would straighten it out, not make it straight, is from slavery. And it's basically kind of pulling your hair taut and wrapping it, so it's like a hair wrap. It might not work if you have like a super tight curl pattern. So like up in, I think, the C's and D's and such. But that's off the top of my head, and that's just a historical reference. Naturally though, with like no products or nothing, I would say leave your hair alone. That's what I would say. I would advise you maybe to braid it if you want it to be you know,
She had
looser,
tried to
but that's
travel
not
from her
going to
home in
straighten
the
it,
Deep
obviously.
South to her mother
But
in
I
Kentucky.
love textured hair. I
But
love
northern
curly
soldiers
hair. I
stopped her,
love just some
insisting she
texture
take
in the
an oath of
hair.
allegiance to the Union.
So I would say
Out of
don't
loyalty
straighten
to
it.
the memory of her husband,
live that
she
rock star
refused.
life.
Lincoln wired the officer in charge, send her to me.
Grant, this is my hair clean, and
Mr. Lincoln my
and
sister
this
met
is
me
my
with
hair
the warmest
clean, so.
affection, Emily wrote in her diary. We were all too grief-stricken at first for speech. I've lost my husband.
A character
I've
from
lost
a
their
anime
fine
named
little
Dobby,
son, Willie. And Mary and I have lost 3 brothers in the Confederate
and I love
service.
him.
We could only embrace each other in silence and tears. As the days passed, Mary and Emily comforted one another. They talked of old times and old friends, but carefully avoided talking about the war, which divided them. This frightful war comes between us like a barrier of granite, Emily wrote, closing our lips but not our hearts. Emily soon
Yeah, that
noticed
works.
that Mary was behaving
Hello.
strangely. She seems very nervous and excitable, Emily wrote. And once or twice when I have come into the room suddenly, the frightened look in her eyes has appalled me. Late one night, after everyone had gone to bed, Mary confided to her sister that Willie's death had shattered her, but she had a consoling secret. The dead still lived.
So if you're wondering why I keep turning the dial on from my sewing machine, there's different stitches already kind of like in the sewing machine. So number 4 is kind of like over here, so it's just the needle farther from the edge, and I'm doing that a couple times because some of the edges are very, very frayed, and I don't want those frays to fuck up my machine. But then I run it back to 1, which is the manual setting, and then, oh my god, my nose. My nose. Sorry. I know, it's disgusting, but I'm in my own house. I can be gross. Make up my own with
Sister
curly
Mary's
hair.
eyes were wide and
I
shining
don't have
when
the
she told me
curliest
that
hair. I
Emily
have
wrote,
kind of a very loose wave in my hair naturally.
"It
So I
frightens me."
would look up, depending on your hair type, or even the coarseness of your hair. Like, for example, my hair is quite coarse, especially from the root,
He was
but it's
frightened too.
not a
They
tight
continued
curl,
to avoid talking
if
about
that
the
makes
war.
sense. So I have
was the
learned everything
children,
about my hair
Emily's
from
daughter
Women of
Catherine,
Color, so I would
And the Lincoln son,
go
Tad,
look
who
through
broke
that.
the silence.
She and Tad were on the sitting room floor.
Oh,
looking at
thank
a
you. It's just my
magazine.
hair.
And Tad said, there was a picture of Lincoln. He said, "Oh, here's the president." And Catherine said, "No, that's not the president. Jim Davis is
No.
president." And Tad jumped up and down and said, "No, Lincoln is president. Hooray for Lincoln." And she jumped up and said, "Hooray for Jim Davis." And just they were about to come to blows, and Lincoln was standing in the doorway. One on the other, and said, "Well, Tad, you know who your president is, and as for Catherine, I'll just be her Uncle Lincoln."
One night, Emily and the Lincolns were joined for
Are
dinner
you
by
going
General
to
Ken
dress up
Sickles,
for Halloween?
once speaking
I
senator
don't
from New
have
York,
friends, so
with
probably
iron
not.
eyes. Harris asked why, when the country was calling upon all its sons
Yeah,
to
probably
defend the
not.
Union,
Just because I
20-year-old
don't leave the
Robert
house
Lincoln
and I
was
don't
left
have
in the
friends,
army.
so
Mary said it was her
I
fault.
got no reason to.
Robert wanted to go.
I already dress up
The
as Dobby like
president had
90%
wanted him to
of the time.
She had insisted he stay in college.
Where's my
Harris
scissors?
had just one son, and he was in the army, he
Oh.
said, turning to Emily. But if he had 20 sons,
Got him.
he would want them
I did
all
lean.
fighting rebels.
Yeah, I guess
And
it's
if I
sad.
had 20 sons, Emily shot
I'll probably
back, they
eat
should all be opposing yours.
dinner from my parents, and
General
then
Sickles, who had lost
probably
the
worry
leg at
about
Gettysburg,
Christmas,
told
and
the
maybe I'll
president
watch some
he
Christmas
should not
special I have on
that rebel in
DVD.
his house.
Because I like to watch Halloween stuff
Excuse me,
all year
General
round, and
Sickles.
Christmas stuff
My
like
wife and I are in
on
the habit of
Halloween.
choosing our own guests. We do not need from our friends either advice
Yeah.
or assistance in the matter.
I mean, I kind of have a friend, I guess, but we slept together, so, yeah. I should not have said that publicly. Fuck.
The tragedy
Okay.
of the Civil War was being played out in
Well.
Lincoln's own home.
The divisions of the war cut right into the heart of people's personal ties. Families were being broken apart, loved ones were being pushed in different directions, and two sisters who wanted only to express their sadness and their loss with one another were prevented from doing so.
On December 14th, Lincoln gave Emily a pass for her trip home and put his arms around her. I hope you do not feel any bitterness, Lincoln told her, or that I am in any way to blame for all this sorrow.
I wouldn't call it a
Lincoln hoped she would come
mistake.
back the following
I would
summer.
call it,
It would
he
help
needs to
to
figure out
calm
how the
Mary.
fuck he
Her
feels.
nerves, he said, have gone to
Do you want to be my
pieces.
friend? Do you want to be my boyfriend? You don't seem
I believe
to
if
want to
anything
know
could
how
happen to
you feel.
or Robert or Tad,
Oh, you
Emily
love
told
me?
him,
I know you do.
it would kill her.
I'm great. I'm throwing a bunch of scraps together so I can use them better.
On March 8th, 1864, the Lincolns were
Aw,
holding a reception in the East Room.
Aww. Aww. That's so
Henry
cute.
U.S. Grant arrived late.
That's so
He
cute.
had never met the president before.
Maybe I'll
never
dress
even
up my
been to
cat.
Washington.
I
"Why,
don't know.
here is General Grant," Lincoln said. "This is a great pleasure, I assure you." The next day, Lincoln made Grant a lieutenant general, the first man since George Washington to hold that rank, and put him in charge of all the Union armies. Grant had won important victories in the West, had taken
The dog's
Vicksburg,
like, I'm just a little
and
guy
everywhere he
here.
had shown a willingness
That's
to
so
fight
cute. I
and
can't.
keep fighting. But there were rumors that he drank too much.
But yeah,
and was too
y'all, if
careless
you
with the
want
lives of his
to
men.
do this,
Lincoln
honestly,
paid no
if
attention.
you want to,
The
there are
president's
tutorials
quotes he had
up
at last found the commander
on
he'd
the
been
channel.
looking for since the war began.
And also, it's great for the environment. And then you get a fun life-size Dobby in your house.
It brought out the tenacity. It brought out that aggression that was needed
Aww.
to command the Northern armies to victory in this war.
I got a cat.
Grant
Her name's
proposed an
Winnie.
all-out assault on the Confederates.
She's
Several
so
Union
tiny.
armies moving simultaneously to destroy the rebel forces.
I wish to express my entire satisfaction with your plans, so far as I can understand them. The particulars I neither know nor seek to know.
Grant's idea. To bring the states back in the Union. You can't just have one battle and call it over. You can't just maneuver and play games of strategy. You simply must bludgeon the Confederacy into surrender.
Hey! Ew! Love you. Aw. I love animals. I brought my cat outside today, right?
Lincoln
Because,
got word that Grant's massive
TBH,
army was marching south
she
toward
has not felt the
through
greatest.
tangled
She's been a
Virginia
little
forest, known
mopey.
locally as the
We thought
Wilderness.
maybe she had a cold. But honestly, I think she might just be throwing a fit.
Robert
I'm
E.
not
Lee,
sure.
65
But,
Confederates.
she's feeling much better now. She's eating and
If you
stuff.
see the president, Grant
And,
said,
I took her
"Tell him
outside,
from
right?
me that whatever
And
happens,
she loves
there will
other
be no
animals,
turning
right?
back."
She doesn't see that she's a cat. She thinks she's like a real person, and she doesn't see the animals as food. She sees them as friends. I'm not joking. So she's like, she wants to hang out with them, but
The
they're
7
scared of
weeks
her.
fighting
And she
followed
doesn't
were
claw
some
them, but
of the
she'll
most
like
savage
tap
ever
them.
seen.
Yeah, she's confused, but she has her claws like in, and so she walks up to this lizard
The
and
wilderness.
she like taps him, and he's like, it's this little baby lizard. The lizard
Spotsylvania.
fine. Completely fine. I made sure of it before I went in the house. The lizard's completely fine. And Winnie's just like,
Where
what are
7,000
you?
Union soldiers
like she's
were
very
lost.
confused.
Most
Because
of
it's a
them
lizard
in the
in the
first
broad
30 minutes.
daylight for some reason. And then we walk over to the fence, and she's rubbing her face on my mom's plants, and there's this grasshopper that she does not see staring her down, just not moving, staring at her, and she doesn't see the grasshopper. I guess it's green, the grasshopper's green, I guess, I don't know. And so she's just la-di-da-da-da for like a hot minute.
He gets in close, like a boxer, like a body puncher.
Oh, mine are really grown out and they got color on top of them right now, but they originally all looked like this nail.
Lincoln said, "Wherever Lee goes, you go."
But yeah, and she's just like, she doesn't understand that that's food, but the animal's like, this cat's gonna eat me. And I'm like, buddy, she's not gonna eat you, I promise. She doesn't know. This cat, guys, this cat, she is so spoiled. She's so spoiled. If you're regular, you've probably seen her around. Hell, you've probably seen her like grab my ass. Because I don't know she's in the room.
Even the president's wife was horrified. Grant is a butcher, Mary Lincoln told her husband, and not fit to be at the head of an army.
Day after day, week after week, the casualties mount and mount and mount. We could never accept casualties like that today. Never. We would never fight a war like that. Those casualties are unheard of portion of the population.
Lincoln said we outnumber the South by more than 2 to 1. Even if we suffer 2 casualties to their 1, in the end, there'll be more of us left than them.
The president could not sleep. He paced the White House corridors, dark rings beneath his eyes. I feel he confided to a friend, as though I shall never be glad anymore.
The streets of Washington were lined with ambulances full of wounded soldiers. Lincoln was obviously moved when he saw these.
I'm back.
He told a friend,
Nothing's bad happening.
"The sorrow of this is
Bye.
more than I can bear."
She is the sweetest thing in the entire world. I'm not even joking. She thinks I made her, like in my body. She thinks I gave birth to her, which didn't happen. I got her, yes, very young, but she's like my mom. And so she's just spoiled rotten.
Those tremendous lines down his face.
And she's always getting picked up and put around. She loves my tea. I drink the sleepy time tea sometimes. And she, no joke, it's like strong. It's all natural. It's safe for her to consume. Nothing in there can hurt her. It's nothing that's like infestable for cats. It's fine. Trust me, I checked a lot because my dad tried to convince me I was going to kill my cat. Thanks, Dad. I'm going to kill you. Fuck you. Anyway. And she will walk up to this tea and she'll smell it. And then she'll start drinking it out of my cup. That did come in handy though when we had a big storm because she is very, very scared of storms. It's so bad. Like her little heart just goes, ah! Like it's so bad. She freaks out. And so I gave her like 2 drops of tea and it helped a lot. But this cat, oh my god. If a storm's happening, she's like, and she needs to go be with like somebody and watch them. She's like, I gotta watch you. She has to watch you. Like last one we had, it was middle of the night and I was awake and she was awake. So she came in here and she got up in my bed. There's a little nook in my bed where she hides. And she's looking at me and my bed's in front of a window, but I knew there's no trees, nothing's gonna fly through the window. So the back of my head's next to the window. And there's a storm and she's just staring at me like, but she doesn't understand you're not supposed to be next to a window in a storm. And so I'm like, Winnie, I'm fine.
You go back to Illinois and send me those boys.
And she's just like, mm-mm-mm. She's like,
By
no,
June
you're not.
15th, Grant's men had fought their way to within sight of Richmond. Then the rebels stopped them at Petersburg. Grant had advanced 60 miles and lost 60,000 men, 3 for every one Lee had lost. Hold on with a bulldog grip, Lincoln wired him. Chew and choke as much as possible.
That one's a little crooked, but
With the end of the war
It
still
goes.
nowhere in sight, calls for an end to the slaughter came from every quarter.
ta-da!
The November presidential election was only 4 months away now, and Lincoln was
It's
being
like the last
assailed
rap.
once again as inept, uncaring, a failure. His prospects looked grim. The election hinged on Union victories, but Grant was dug in at Petersburg, and the Union troops under General William Tecumseh Sherman stalled as they drove toward Atlanta. The Democrats were about to nominate the former Union commander George McClellan, still popular, still ambitious. Lincoln believed McClellan was likely to try to end the war by
She
promising
is with
to
my
rescind
dad. She likes to watch my
emancipation.
dad at work.
The
Because
Democrats
he
thought that they had a
works
real
down the
chance to
hall.
win the
And so she sits
1864
there and she
election.
watches him.
Lincoln was a discredited leader. The North appeared to be closer to winning the war. Cartoons appeared in Democratic newspapers portraying Lincoln as a widowmaker. That's what Democrats called him, a widowmaker. And indeed, if the election had been held in
Thanks.
August of
You're so pretty.
1864,
Thank you.
when Northern morale was at its low point, I'm convinced Lincoln would not have been reelected.
The Democrats were calling for an immediate armistice and negotiations with the South. The president came under intense pressure to discuss peace with Jefferson Davis.
Lincoln said, I'm willing to talk to Jefferson Davis about peace, but
That
here are
dude
my
her
conditions.
sounded like Obama for a
Reunion
minute. Hello.
and emancipation. I'm not going to back down.
People condemned Lincoln as the one reason why the war continued. Thousands of men are dying on a daily basis because this president is determined to free the slaves. Mr. President, we didn't go to war to free the slaves in the first place. Why don't you give it up? Lincoln says, can't do that. The promise was made, and the promise having been made, it must be kept.
I desire so to conduct the affairs of this administration that if at the end,
Yeah,
when
look
I
at what
come
that
to
southern
lay
accent.
down the reins of power, I've
Thank
lost
you.
every friend on earth, I shall have at least one friend left, and that friend shall be down inside me.
Late one evening that summer, Mary Lincoln and Elizabeth Keckley, the seamstress who had become her confidant, sat together in Mary's room. The First Lady asked Mrs. Keckley if she thought Lincoln would be reelected. Mrs. Keckley said that despite everything, she did.
Do y'all like watching me sew? Is this
Mrs.
something
Lincoln
we're
seemed
enjoying?
If he should be defeated,
I know we like watching me crochet. Are we liking watching me sew?
to me, there is more at stake in this election than he dreams of.
She had a terrible secret, she confessed. She had once again plunged herself to death.
Damn it!
If my
Yeah,
husband
it
knew
knows.
I was involved to the extent that I am, the knowledge would drive him mad. If he is reelected, I can keep him in ignorance of my affairs. But if he is defeated, then the bills will be sent in, and he will know all.
With the country's future at stake in the 1864 election, Mary, who had once so cared about politics, who had been the anchor for Lincoln through his early political career, would now find herself so obsessively concerned about the spending that had catapulted out of control that her only thought was, he's got to win so that my bills will get paid and he will not find out what I have been doing.
As election day drew nearer, Elizabeth Keckley remembered, Mrs. Lincoln was almost crazy with anxiety and fear.
Nothing else seems to have mattered. She talked about it, she worried about it. That kind of obsession is a substitute for all of the other concerns in her life that she couldn't control. Continued mourning over the death of Willie.
On August 19th, Lincoln asked Frederick Douglass to come back to see him at the White House. He wanted Douglass to recruit black men for a daring secret mission, to make their way into the deepest South and encourage African Americans still enslaved to escape to the Union side
Yeah.
before
I
Election
don't
Day.
sew them from scratch the majority of the time, but I do
Lincoln was
alter my
afraid that
clothes
if he lost
quite a
the
bit.
presidency,
Like
slavery's
if a
grip would
stitch
be
is
reestablished
fucked
in the
up,
South,
or like
and he wanted to get as many slaves to freedom as he possibly could.
or if like I don't like the way a
To
sleeve
Frederick
is sitting
Douglass,
or something,
this proved
I'll
that
just fix
Lincoln's
it.
concern for slaves was far more than mere politics.
And I don't buy clothes, so a lot of my
Douglas
clothes are very old and very
now
tattered.
saw Lincoln
obviously.
as the black
And
man's
so
president.
I just kind of like
He was
sew
the
them
only
better.
president who had ever held audiences with African Americans, who had ever brought them in to tell them of his ideas. So he's the first president who recognizes African Americans as a people and as part of America.
In Lincoln's company, Douglass wrote, "I was never in any way reminded of my humble origin or of my unpopular color." Lincoln was not only
Also,
a great president,
I personally stitch all my seams just because I feel like that makes them more secure. Like I tie them shut. Nobody really does that. I guess they might if they work in a factory.
Douglass's visit, Lincoln stood
Excuse
on
me.
the White House
I do
lawn
it, though.
to review the
I
men
do
of
it
the
a lot.
166th Ohio Regiment
Every single piece of
about to
clothing
go
of
home
mine,
on leave
if
after
it's
hard
been
fighting in the
sewn by me
Wilderness
and fixed by
Campaign.
me,
Lincoln
has
thanked
a
them
bunch
for
of
their
teeny
service
tiny knots in the
and
stitches.
reminded them of the cause for which they fought.
Yeah.
It is not merely for today.
I'm a big fan of stuff
but
like
for all
visible
time to
mending.
come,
Big fan.
that we should perpetuate
Because I
for our
feel like
children's
our
children
clothes
this
should
great
have the
free
right
government.
and the willingness to live at least as long as we do. I feel like
beg you
to sit
remember
there
this,
and to continue
merely
to
for my
pollute
sake,
just
but for
so
yours.
much stuff with stuff from fast fashion, stuff from factories and stuff.
I
Like
have
yes,
to
technically
do
I guess I could be
something
considered a
about
one
this
person
big White
factory.
House.
But I
have
know
been a
there's
witness
more care
that
going
any
into that one
of
piece
your
of
children
clothing
may
than
not
maybe
come here.
a company paying people like a cent, like a little cent, like a penny across seas in a place where people don't have many other options. It puts my mind at ease. I'd much rather sit here and break my back fixing some stitches that pop loose, or sewing something new than going and one, spending money,
And if Lincoln loses that
and
election,
two,
the South
like
loses
oh, there's not
independence.
enough room to stitch it there.
I
Okay.
think the future
And
of the
two,
nation was at stake. This
like-
was the most
like,
important election
continue
in American history.
Using stuff like that.
After more than 3 years
My
of bloodshed,
family does
the great
use
issues
stuff like
of
fast
slavery
fashion, and
and
it
secession
upsets me
still
very
hung in the
much.
balance.
Because then they're like, well, I don't want this, so I'm just gonna donate. I'm like, you're not getting the fucking problem. You're not getting why this is a problem. Like, I would happily be a one-person designer for a million fucking people for dirt money
Late one
if they
August
just
evening in
showed me photos of
1864,
what they want,
Abraham Lincoln was riding from the White House
and then
to
me be
Soldiers'
able to
Home.
make that,
He
make
and
it
Mary
better,
were spending their
and
third
it
summer.
lasts longer than, let's say, fucking something you buy off Shein or
Lincoln was
Wish
still
or
convinced he was going to
AliExpress.
be
Is
defeated
AliExpress
in
even still in
presidential election.
business? Like,
Now just weeks
let's
away.
be honest with ourselves. Do we want that cute top? If that cute top was $20, would we buy the cute top? Why are we buying the cute top? Because it's $5. If we weren't gonna buy if it was $20. Even more so, you can make that same cute top for maybe $2 at home.
Someone had fired a shot, Lincoln told his wife, but it must have been an accident. Maybe some hunter emptying his gun before going home. Mary Lincoln.
Oh,
Mr. Lincoln's life is always exposed. No one knows what it is to live in constant dread of some fearful tragedy. The president has been warned so often that I tremble for him. I have a presentiment that he will meet with a sudden and violent end.
For years, I would hand stitch so much stuff just because I didn't want to use a sewing machine. And guess what? A lot of those things still holding up pretty well. To not want to make art, to say you can't make art, is to sit there and say, I'm not even going to try because it's saying I'm lazy. That's what it's saying.
It's a full-blown American political campaign, complete with barbecues, fireworks, parades. It
Yes,
looks
art takes
almost
time, but
like
so
the
does
nation had
buying a
fallen
product
apart.
that's going to break in like 2 washes.
With the survival of the nation.
The election is in their hands. If they turn their backs to the fire and get scorched in the rear, they'll find they've got to sit on the blister.
I believe that the people
Hopefully that
would
didn't
vote
fuck it
against
up too
him
bad.
unless his
Oh, it
army
fucked up
began to
that
win clear-cut
Not that
victories.
sad though.
Then on September
fucked up too
2nd,
bad.
1864, he got a message from William Tecumseh Sherman. It would turn the election around. Atlanta is ours and fairly won, it said.
Everybody sees the fall of Atlanta as signaling that the Confederacy is dying. People can see that the war is winding down. And if they will simply stay the course a little bit longer, that victory will be had.
Election day, November 8th.
I'm hearing things.
That evening,
I'm
while
fine.
Mary Lincoln waited nervously inside the White House, Lincoln and his secretary splashed across to the War Department to follow the returns.
Guys,
The first
like I know
results gave
I
Lincoln
am
Philadelphia and Baltimore.
better than the average person
Lincoln
at
asked
a
that
lot of
the
things.
encouraging
I
news
will
be sent over
put
to
it like
Mrs.
that
Lincoln.
because
She,
I
he
have
said,
been doing
is
so many
more
things for
anxious
so
than
long.
I.
But do you think when I started
As more and
sewing
more
with the
good news
machine
rattled
when
in,
I was
Lincoln
like
and a few friends settled
7
into a quiet,
that I
celebratory
was
supper.
good? I was
The
also
president, his secretary
7.
remembered, went awkwardly and hospitably to work.
Like
shoveling out
guys,
the
come on,
fried
am I the best? No. Am I learning every single time I put my sewing machine up on this fucking desk? Yeah. Yeah! I was fucking awful. There was a good 2 years where I just made fabric stick together with hot glue because I was so done with the fucking sewing machine. Because I would make it clog so much. Like, yes, you should not start with a sewing machine. I would highly suggest to anyone, start with a needle and some thread. Even if the thread's the hair off your head.
Now, with a clear
You are
mandate to
never
fight
too
on to
poor to
defeat,
make art. That's
he
the beautiful
resolved to
thing of
fight
art.
another battle as well.
You're never too poor to make it. Because art
The
is one of those things that just,
Emancipation
it
Proclamation
explores
freed only
all
those
facets
slaves
of life,
living in
all
rebel
cultures,
territory.
all loves, all
Lincoln
everything.
wanted an
Even the
amendment to
definition of love
Constitution
is literally this
banning slavery
artistic
forever
way of
from
literally,
every part of the United States.
like, people. You can make art no matter how poor you are.
If Negroes stake their lives,
Like, I'm quite literally sitting here,
they must be prompted
stitching
by
together a
strong
bunch of
motive.
scraps because I don't got money for
Even
new
the promise of
fabric.
freedom.
You can make stuff.
There have been men who proposed to me to return to slavery the black warriors of Port Hudson. They should be damned
I
if
don't
time
know.
and
Don't I
eternity
need to
can
back
so
in
do.
I
The
do.
world shall know that I will keep my faith to friends and enemies, come what will.
Lincoln was determined that Congress pass the amendment before Inauguration Day as a symbol of national unity. He was certain of victory in the Senate, but first
But
he
yeah,
needed a
guys,
two-thirds
no matter
majority in
your
the House
money,
of
no matter
Representatives.
what, honestly,
Lincoln
you
put
can make
all
art
powers
out of
his
really
office
anything.
and of his recent re-election
Literally anything.
behind this
Art
amendment.
is something that will
He called
explore life
Congressman
until
into the
death.
White House,
Really,
and then he began
the
arm
decaying
twisting.
human body is
Probably
kind of like art.
promising some kind of
And that's
patronage,
fucking insane, people.
Postmastership, Customs Office.
Basically what he did
Like
was
your body's
for
literally
Congressmen, one by
decomposing
one by one,
into its bare
until he got the
essentials,
vote majority,
and then
he
dust.
persuaded even some Democrats to say, look,
That's
this is going to be
insane.
done next year, if not this, let's get on with it.
By 3 votes, the two-thirds majority is achieved. And the House chamber just breaks into a wild celebration.
Congressmen got up and cheered. The galleries cheered, with, by the way, blacks in the congressional galleries for the first time. It was one of the greatest occasions in the history of
I'm gonna go
Congress.
show my mom. I'm gonna go show
And
my
the
mom
House,
this.
in honor of what they call this great historic occasion, voted to take the rest of the day off.
The 13th Amendment pronounced a death sentence for slavery. Ratification by 3/4 of the states seemed assured. The president was so pleased, he insisted on signing the resolution, even though his signature was not legally required.
A great job is ended. I congratulate myself, the country, and the whole world upon this great moral victory.
For all of the hedging that he did about the Emancipation Proclamation, about black troops, it's ultimately Lincoln's skill and Lincoln's commitment that leads to the 13th Amendment.
That night, the White House servant remembered, the president slept as he had not slept in months. With the fall of Atlanta, the nature of the war changed.
Oh, I am.
Sherman
I
began
am,
burning
especially in the last few days. Oh
destroying
my
crops
god. It's
as he
been
marched through
nuts.
Georgia towards
I'm
Savannah
probably gonna
and
end up
Mississippi.
using this for Dobby's white outfit.
It became a very different kind of war. War against civilians and not just soldiers. War waged on southern farms to take from them what they have and feed your own troops with it. But what you can't take, burn and destroy. Lincoln comes to the view that this is the only way the South can be conquered. And he saw very clearly that we can't conquer the minds of these people. And the only thing we could do is make war so terrible that they'll eventually give up.
While Sherman cut a path through Georgia, General Philip Sheridan stormed through Virginia's fertile Shenandoah Valley, plundering farms, torching barns, tearing up rail lines. At the same time, Northern troops began to come upon Union prisoners of war, many in desperate condition because the rebels had run out of food to feed them. Lincoln himself carried a photograph of one of them, ready to show it to anyone who objected to the harsh treatment his commanders were now meting out to the South. As the suffering continued, Lincoln read and reread the tragedies of Shakespeare and turned to the Bible.
Had to make that a little straighter just
He had
because
a Bible on his
that was
desk
not
at
gonna
all
do well.
times.
But you know something? This teeny tiny amount of
He
scrap
knew
is
it
so
always
much
by
better
heart.
for one, landfills, two, the fucking
And
environment,
during
and
these
three,
terrible
the environment
months,
can actually
he read
eat
the
that.
Bible
Because this
more
isn't like
frequently
it's not like thick. It's already kind of falling
On
apart.
one occasion, Elizabeth
That is so much
Kent
better
was
than
on
throwing a
her
whole
reading
t-shirt
Bible,
away because it has a stain.
and she found an excuse to go behind the sofa and to see what he was reading. And he was reading Job.
Inauguration Day, March 4th, 1865. All the bloodshed, all the agony. Lincoln turned them over and over in his mind. At Gettysburg, he had given the fighting a higher purpose. Now, in his second inaugural address, he would try to find an explanation for the last 4 years of pain and suffering.
For him, because it matters to him to explain things. It matters to
God
find the
damn
right
it, that
words.
is not
But it
good.
also mattered.
I should undo that. That's not good.
This is why we had a
That's not good. I don't want it like that. God fucking.
As Lincoln
Ow,
began
ow,
to
ow,
speak,
ow, ow.
the sun broke through the
Give
clouds.
me. Give me it. Give me it.
4 years ago,
Asshole.
all thoughts were anxiously directed to an impending civil war. All dreaded it.
Thank you.
All sought to avert it. And the war
Needle
came.
got sucked down into the machine.
Victory seemed close
Oh yeah,
now,
that is not good.
and he might have been
Okay.
expected to exult. Instead,
My fucking hair keeps getting on it.
Both
They
sides
are.
read the same
They
Bible.
definitely are. You're very right about that. That's very smart, honestly. I don't own
And
an
each
iron.
invokes his aid against the other. It may seem
I own a
strange
tea
that
kettle,
any man
but
should
I don't
ever
want to get
ask
up
for
every
just
5 seconds
God's
to go
assistance
re-iron
and wring
something
their
with the bottom
bread
of a tea kettle.
from the
So.
sweat of other men's faces. But let us judge not, that we be not judged. The prayers of both
We're gonna
should not
hand
be
undo this because I don't know where
that
my
of neither
thread
has
ripper
been
is.
answered fully. The Almighty has his own purposes.
Lincoln felt that God had given both the North and South this bloody retribution for the sins of the nation. The sin of the nation was 250 years of enslavement of African Americans, and God was punishing them for this.
Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away. Yet if God wills that it continue, until all the wealth piled by the bondman's 250 years of unrequited toil shall be sunk, and until every drop of blood drawn with a lash shall be paid by another drawn with a sword. As was said 3,000
Oh yeah, that
years
was not
ago,
good. I should have
so
undone that.
still it must be said, the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether.
It is the Old Testament of a just and righteous God who wreaks on his enemies what they deserve.
Oh,
And
you
this,
son of a
in
bitch.
some sense, Lincoln found very consoling.
If you don't, I have a pair of
If this is what God
fucking
wills, it is not just
things
what
meant
I
for
am
jewelry.
willing.
That's meant for jewelry.
I am
Next
carrying
finger,
out
because sometimes you
his
can't get it.
wishes in seeing that this war is
It's not even a lie.
prosecuted
Sometimes I
very
can't get it, so I
bitterly.
pick it up with the jewelry part.
You always got the sense with Lincoln that he was wrestling with his own guilt, that he was wrestling with death.
The death, the destruction, the apocalyptic nature of this war is incomprehensible. He has to turn this over to God. When God wills that it ends, it will end, and not till then. The second inaugural address is a spiritual thing. but it is also a call for unity. We are almost there. We are almost there. You know, God has brought us this far. Stay the course, and when we're done, let us not exact recriminations on one another.
The Union remained sacred to Lincoln. He wanted once again to make it whole, to bring the South back. But he knew it would not be easy. 4 years of bloody war had left many Northerners raw with anger. Of the South for starting a war that had fractured the Union, turned her own brothers into her enemies, and threatened to overwhelm her.
Different paths during the war than he has, and they both come out sadly in very different places.
Oh, that's so much better.
With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right.
That's gonna be a
As
bitch to
God
do,
gives
though.
us to
It's
see
gonna
the
be a
right.
bitch to catch.
Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and a lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations.
Oh,
As
she
Lincoln
is.
finished his speech,
She don't
he
like
looked
me.
out over the
Oh,
enormous
God,
crowd.
this should not be like this.
Standing alongside whites were African Americans who had by now come to see the president as something like a savior.
It's meant to be like a training machine. I got it a few years ago and I haven't used it just because she's been such a bitch until literally like a week ago. I think she ripped the hair on my head on that last row. I'm not even lying. But she's been such a bitch until literally last week. And then she was like, fine, I like you now. And then she was still skipping stitches and shit. Which, if you don't know, is very agitating.
This group of constituents and the other.
That evening, at the
I'm
inaugural
gonna pull
reception,
my hair back just
police
because
tried
I
to
do
bar the
think
way
she
of
ripped a
black
piece of
men
my
who
hair out
insisted on being admitted.
and like sewed it
Lincoln told
into
them
it.
to let
I
the
don't
man
see
pass.
it, but I feel where she
Frederick
ripped
Douglass
it
was
out.
the first African American ever to attend an inaugural reception, and the president greeted him warmly. What had he
It's
thought
only
of the
funny
speech?
because I'm a woman.
Mr. Lincoln Douglas replied, "That was a sacred effort."
If you're a man, don't make jokes like that. 'Cause that's just weird. Oh, this is gonna be a bitch. I'm not even gonna. That's
On
so
March
gross.
23rd,
How the
Lincoln
fuck am I
boarded the
gonna?
River Queen at Washington, set out for Grant's headquarters at City Point, Virginia, just 20 miles from the Confederate capital.
Also, these are hair cutting scissors from not even
The
2 years
president was
ago.
worn out, but he wanted to visit the
Good.
army that now seemed so close to victory. Mary insisted on going
We don't
too.
need men thinking
She
they can
needed
make
to be
those
near him.
jokes.
She lived in fear, she wrote a friend, that the deep waters through which we have passed will overwhelm me. Three days later, Mary and Mrs. Grant were scheduled to join their husbands at a grand review of the Union Army. As their carriage bumped slowly along deeply rutted roads, jolting the two women, Mary grew more and more agitated. Her pent-up anxieties and closely guarded fears were about to explode for all the world to see. By the time Mary reached the parade ground, her husband was already riding down the line of troops. Mrs. Edward Ord, the commanding general's wife, was at his side, in Mary's place. Mary erupted in fury, loudly accusing the innocent woman of flirting with her husband. Mrs. Ord burst into tears.
There was not the slightest hint that the president was flirting with Mrs. Ord. It is true, however, that Mary worried about flirtations, even when they didn't exist.
Mary was an incorrigible flirt, and I think she projected her own tendencies, which were just to make her feel better, make her feel younger, perfectly innocent, but she projected those fantasies in dead seriousness onto other women.
Okay, I think I
Then
figured it
Mary
out.
shouted at the president himself, demanding that he remove the woman's husband from his command. Mrs. Grant tried to restrain her, but Mary was out of control.
It was the first really open public display of their differences that they had ever permitted themselves since he became president.
Remembered as Christ might have done, with an expression of pain one to the heart, but with supreme calmness and dignity. He called her much plainness, till she turned on him like a tigress, and then he walked away, hiding that noble was the full expression of his misery. The Lincoln stayed on at City Point while the president conferred with his commanders. This time, but he also urged them to offer the most generous terms of surrender.
Let them all go, officers and all. I want submission and no more bloodshed. I want no one punished. We want those people to return to their allegiance to the Union.
After her humiliating outburst, Mary Lincoln did not leave her cabin for 3 days. The president explained she wasn't feeling well. Then he sent her home to Washington. She later claimed her husband had had a dream that the White House had burned down and had asked
Oh
her to
yeah,
go and
definitely.
see
My
it
mom's
for
sewing
herself.
machine, it's a real nice one, right? It was a really good one when
Lincoln
we got it,
remained
but
behind.
obviously
He did
it's
not
like
want to
10
miss
years
the
old now.
all-out attack on Petersburg that was about to begin.
sewed my
He
mom's
hoped it would be
like
the
finger
final
one
battle
time.
of the war.
It was like her finger or her fingernail.
On April 2nd at 4:20 in the morning, while Lincoln watched and listened from City
Yeah.
Point, Grant hurled his army.
This is the same sewing machine that has clogged up on me every single time I've sewn with it for the last 10 years.
The rebel lines
Ooh,
broke.
I did good.
Among the dead left behind were boys as young as 14. Richmond now lay undefended, and Union troops marched into the city. Lee headed west with what was left of his army, but this time the Federals were right behind him. The next day, Lincoln was in high spirits as he and his son Tad headed up the James River to Richmond. He could not resist having a look at what had once been the capital of the Confederacy.
Look at that.
It's a kind of a funny expedition. They start on a real ship, and then it has to be diverted.
I'm gonna go show my mommy.
So then they put
Be
it
right
on
back.
a tugboat, and that
BRB.
goes a little bit further, and something happens to it. And so they put him in a little rowboat and row him into Richmond. He tells a friend that I'm reminded of a story from my patronage days of the man who came to me and said, I want to be Secretary of State. And I said, I'm sorry, that job's already taken. Well, he said, you could make me ambassador to England. No, that job's already taken. Well, he said, you could make me consul to France. No, that job's already taken. Well, said the man, you could at least give me a pair of old used trousers. It pays to be humble, said Lincoln in his rowboat as he arrives in Richmond.
of the Confederate capital lay in ruins, destroyed by retreating rebels and looted by hungry mobs. As Lincoln made his way through the smoky streets, hundreds of former slaves surrounded him. Some knelt at his feet. Lincoln was embarrassed. "Don't kneel to me," he said. "You must kneel to God only, and thank Him for your liberty." While Tad waited outside, Lincoln entered the abandoned official residence of Jefferson Davis.
For a time he sits in Jefferson Davis's chair, and he sees finally total victory within his command. This was the triumphal scene of his life.
5 days later, on the evening of April 9th, his Secretary of War brought him the telegram he had been waiting for. General
I'm back.
Lee surrendered the Army of
She
Northern
said,
Virginia
"Wow."
this morning, it read.
And then I asked her if the
4
sewing
years
machine
of
sewed her
civil
finger
war
or her fingernail.
had
It
ended.
sewed her finger. So I think I was right the first time. But that's nuts, guys. That's fucking insane. Sewing machine's like, "Here, let me sew your fucking finger." I wasn't there when this happened. I was at school because I was kind of young when this happened. Same woman that got something in her eyes, and I, as like a 2-year-old, had to guide her back in the house. And she also has a piece of glass stuck in her foot.
Kind and merciful in the midst of our heavy afflictions.
I would say don't start off with a sewing machine. Well, if your mom has a sewing machine, maybe start off with a sewing machine. But I mainly hand stitch for a really long time, just because that's what I was comfortable with.
A mighty cheer went
And I would do a
up
ladder
from Lincoln's
stitch, and then I would do the little
Surprising everyone, he called upon the Marine
stitch.
band to
One
play
where
the
you
unofficial
make a loop,
anthem
and then
of
you
the
pull the needle
Confederacy.
through the loop. That stitch. I would do a ladder, and then I would do that.
While
And that's
Tad
how I hand
frantically
stitched
waved
for a
the
really
captured
long
rebel
time.
flag from an upstairs window.
I've always thought Dixie one of the best tunes I've ever heard. Our adversaries over the way attempted to appropriate it. I presented the question to the Attorney General, and he gave it as his legal opinion that it is our lawful pride.
The next evening, a happy crowd gathered on the White House grounds. With Mary watching from a nearby window, Lincoln stepped forward to speak. Illuminated by a single flickering candle, his
Yeah.
face was pale, Elizabeth Keckley recalled, but his soul was flashing through his eyes. As Tad knelt out of sight at his father's feet to catch each page of the speech, Lincoln began to read.
Reuniting our country is fraught with great difficulty.
This is a fucking. This is the. A lot of this fabric is from a cotton sheet
There is no authorized
that's
order
torn
to
up in my
cause
sewing
treatment.
box for some reason.
No one man has authority to give up the rebellion for any
Yeah.
other man.
My grandmother, my mom's mom,
The loyal
she
people
worked in a sewing
differ
like
among
factory for
ourselves as to the goals,
fucking forever.
manner,
So
and
she knew
means of
like everything
reconstruction.
about a sewing machine. Everything.
It's not what the crowd wanted. They wanted a celebration of how great we are, what wonderful things
What
have
the fuck
happened.
happened
how
here?
everything
What
would
the
be happy
fuck?
from now on out.
What the fuck?
Instead,
That's
Lincoln gives them a
what?
carefully reasoned
Oh my god,
speech
I'll figure that
about
out.
reconstruction of how we're going to rebuild this union.
But yeah,
With the
so my
North
grandmother
deeply
knew like
divided
everything
as to
about
how to
everything about
reunite
sewing
the country
machines.
and how the former slaves were to be treated, Lincoln wanted to steer a cautious course.
He practices the art of the possible, just as he had moved step by step on
This is a
emancipation.
shirt.
That's what he was doing, I think,
This
on
was a shirt.
Reconstruction and on the question that became central to Reconstruction, what was then called Negro suffrage.
Okay.
Lincoln told the crowd that he favored giving the vote to some freedmen, the very intelligent, he said, and those who serve our cause as soldiers.
You don't educate
No
people, they're
other
gonna be
president
stupid.
had ever dared suggest that any African Americans be allowed to vote.
he thought that blacks would become a kind of comfortable farming class in the South that could get along in a reconstructed Southern society. Their future would depend
Yeah.
on themselves and
I
their
can.
own exertions.
I
You have to
would,
remember
well,
that
for one, it's a decent amount of fabric, but I would
Abraham
simply
Lincoln had been
take a pair of
South Indian.
scissors
These
and
blacks
seam
could
rip
become
the
South
hem.
Indian
It would
too.
give me a decent amount of fabric right here to kind of pull up from.
Listening
That's
in
how
the
I do a
crowd
lot of
that
my
evening
stuff,
was a
is
young
from like
Confederate
shirts and stuff
sympathizer who
I've
believed
cut up,
fervently
and
that
I
America
seam rip the
was
hems.
formed for the white, not for the black man. Lincoln's talking
Like, for example, here's another piece of
he
that
muttered
shirt.
to a companion.
All I would have to do is seam rip
That
the
was the
hem
last
and then
speech
kind
he
of
will
like
ever make.
it off. But here on the bottom, you see, I can actually extend
John
the
Wilkes
fabric by
was
like
a
an
well-known
inch
actor.
with that.
Lincoln had admired his performance in Shakespeare's Richard
Sometimes I
III.
recycle the hems
once said
and I use them
he
as
would like
hems
to
on
meet
other
him.
things. So that's always great.
Two nights later, Lincoln had a dream.
Yeah.
He seemed, he said later, to be in some singular, indescribable vessel, moving with great rapidity towards an indefinite shore.
Oh, that needs to go.
It was a familiar dream. He had had it before the great victories at Antietam and Gettysburg.
Don't do that unless you've been doing this a really long
Always, he
time,
said,
because I already
It
started seam
meant
ripping
good
that.
news.
But if you see, this is like marker from years ago. So we're gonna throw away the piece with the marker, and we're gonna stitch this to another piece of similar size, and then we're gonna do kind of an underneath stitch. I don't know. I'm just sewing a bunch of scraps together, so it's easier for me to use them.
The next afternoon, April
Just because a
14th,
lot of scraps are
was
really
Friday,
teeny tiny,
and Mary and Abraham
and I would
Lincoln
like to
went
use
for
them
carriage
all.
ride. The war was over.
I feel like I have one the
At
similar
last,
size
the
as
weary
this.
couple could relax and rejoice.
They sat and talked about the
I feel like I
future.
have one that's like an
Lincoln said,
actual like the same
Between
size.
the loss of our darling Willie and the war, we
Let's
have
put
both
this
been
up
very
here.
miserable. We have to be more cheerful. And all the misery was going to go away and they would be happy again.
Dear husband, Mary told him. "You
But yeah, I
almost
recycled
startled
the
me by
hem
your
on
great
this for
cheerfulness."
let me show you without like
She felt
flashing you.
wonderful after this
But
carriage ride.
basically my Dobby doll has boxers, and so I recycled the hem for his boxers because I didn't want to sit there and have to sew a hem.
From the night they went to the
'Cause
theater.
I wanted to still appear very thin, so I just recycled the seam for the top, and then I did a zigzag
That
for the
evening,
bottom so
Lincolns
it wouldn't
attended
fray.
Ford's Theater with a young major named Henry Rathbone and his fiancée Clara Harris.
Harris, you said?
The play was a knockabout farce called Our American Cousin. The president seemed to enjoy it.
I'll sew those two together. I knew I had that one. I knew it was in my hand.
Mary nestled against her husband.
What will Miss Harris think of my hanging on to you so?
She won't think anything about it.
I've been a fan of MHA since 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. So it's been a minute, and basically the whole time I've been cosplaying Dobby, because I love Dobby so much. And I'm making a life-size version of Dobby, which is what these are for.
As Lincoln fell
But I'm making the
forward,
small one so that I
Mary's
can
dream.
have a proportionate sizing thing.
John Wilkes Booth had shot the President of the United States.
Now I'm just waiting for them to release the, last 11 episodes, I think.
The unconscious president was carried across 10th Street into a rooming house. Mary stood by his bedside, imploring him to answer her. bind up the nation's wounds. Lincoln's body rested in the East Room, where the Lincolns had so often received their guests. Mary remained upstairs in her bedroom, unable to see anyone, unable to attend her husband's funeral, inconsolable. Elizabeth Keckley stayed with her, listening helplessly to what she called the unearthly shrieks, the terrible convulsions.
She was in a daze. She couldn't even speak. She couldn't even communicate. There was no getting close to her grief.
Tad tried to comfort his mother too, but her loud weeping frightened him. "Don't cry so, Mama," he begged her.
Dobby's probably my favorite League of Villains member, but after that's probably Spinner, and after that's probably Shigaraki. I love Spinner though. I go through these phases where I'm just like, oh, Spinner, if you were real, I dig you more than I would Dobby. Like I'm very attracted to Dobby, but Spinner's such a cutie. I can't. I can't. All for One wasn't even a fucking member though. You need to remember that. He wasn't even a fucking member. He was just like the founder of the original like concept of the League of Villains.
I don't think there's
Dude lost the concept.
an outpouring of emotion in American history.
Dude lost the fucking
Lincoln is shot
concept.
within days after Lee's
But yeah,
surrender.
Spinner's such a cutie. People need to show Spinner more love. I hope Spinner has a very happy life while he's writing his books. And I hope he finds a lovely partner and has an adorable little baby girl and has a very happy life. But that man is bisexual if you've ever seen one. That is a bisexual little lizard
The
man.
morning went on for 16 more days. As his coffin
Fucking
was
Toga
slowly
and
borne home to Springfield,
Toga and Dobby
along the
too.
same tracks that
It was basically the League of Bisexuals. Come on. Let's be fucking for real. Everyone was bi. Bye, bye, bye.
Huge grieving crowds received the cortege.
I think the only straight person in that entire thing was probably Twice. Let's be real. Because if Twice liked men, Twice would have emoted it at some point.
The country understands that when he dies, their anchor has been taken away. And they realize that something very special has passed out of their lives. And their reaction is
Oh, this is gonna
extraordinary.
be easy
So
peasy.
intensely felt, so
I
deeply
gave myself quite a bit of
expressed.
slack. Let's go now. Good.
He was just a simple man with simple parents, and he made it all the way to the President of the United States.
He was the great hero who saved the Union.
I'm not a shipper of that, but I am a
Brooklyn
Cherokee
poet
Spinner
named
shipper.
Walt Whitman, who had often paused to watch as the president
Isn't it
passed
canon
along the
that
streets of
Uraraka still like dreams
captured
of
the
Toga,
people's
which that's
sorrow
really
as its
cute
own.
and really disturbing. I hope she sees a psychiatrist.
When Lilac
Like I
laughed
keep
in the
thinking of this
dooryard
girl I had to kill.
and the great
Like that's
star
really
barely
concerning,
broke through the
Uraraka.
western
Please
sky
go
in the
see a
night.
psych.
I mourn, and yet shall mourn with ever-returning spring. Dear coffin that slowly passes, I give you my sprig of lilac. On May 3rd, the funeral train arrived in Springfield. The next day, at Oak Ridge Cemetery on the outskirts of town, Abraham Lincoln was laid to rest at last, alongside his sons Eddie and Willie.
I don't know. After Hawks killed twice, I couldn't think of Hawks' name. I could not have.
Mary Lincoln did not accompany
He's
her
like,
husband's
dude.
funeral train to Springfield.
Dude, that could have been your fucking
She
life,
was
and you're like,
unable to leave
I'm
her
sorry,
work.
Twice, I have to kill you.
For over a month, she remained there. Then, heavily veiled and dressed in black, she left the White
Yeah.
House for the last time.
I didn't pay a lot of attention to it because I had to rewatch it recently.
It was so
I-
unlike the day
I was
when
sitting
the body
there, I
of
was
the
like,
president
I already
was
know
borne
everything
from
that
the hall
happens.
grand and
But I
solemn
hadn't like
state.
actually like
It
sat
was
down and watched the
protected,
episodes in a
remembered.
really long time, so I was like, I'm just gonna rewatch
Now
the
the wife
whole
of
thing,
the
and it's now
president
like
was leaving the
2
White
weeks.
House,
And that's what I did.
and there was
Except I
scarcely a
think I
friend to
skipped
tell her goodbye.
most of season 1. Because I don't like
The
season 1 that
silence
much.
was almost painful.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm like not paying attention. I'm just flat out not paying attention. But at some point I was doing my mom's nails with the TV on, and I was explaining to her Dobby's
That same day,
boo-boos,
mighty Union
and
Army
she
marched
kept
up
making a face like,
Pennsylvania Avenue in celebration of its victory. While Mary Lincoln with her sons Robert and Tad boarded a train and headed for Illinois. Unable to face the memories that would have surrounded her in Springfield, she remained secluded in a Chicago hotel and gave herself over to grief.
Day by day, I miss my beloved husband more and more. How I am to pass through life without him, who loved us so dearly. It is impossible for me to say. I must patiently await the hour when God's love shall place me by his side again. For I have almost become blind with weeping.
Her grief became her chief preoccupation. She reminded herself of it constantly. She would not let herself forget it. She would not let her friends forget it. She couldn't believe what had happened to her, because you must understand that not only did she lose the man she truly loved, her great partner in life, but the man who had made her the first lady of the land, the man who gave her status, the man who gave her importance and identity.
As Mary mourned, the life of the man
As
she
Mary
loved
mourned.
was already becoming the stuff of myth and legend.
people are talking in my fucking kitchen loudly
No
and
American
madly and
president
it's stressing
had
me
ever
out.
been assassinated. And in a country in which 600,000 men had died in just 4 years, the death of this
Literally,
one man
if
became transcendent.
let's be for real, if Endeavor was a good dad, like 90% of MHA would not have been a problem, and fucking All for One would have died like
As George Washington himself.
way sooner. Let's be for real.
Mary.
They don't talk about that. They don't talk about the importance.
And it had to have been part of what helped sustain her. But her
Look how
life
perfect.
after his death is an unremitting series of pain and suffering and tragedy.
Stitching all my scraps together so they're easier to use.
For 6 years, Tad Lincoln was his mother's constant companion and only source of comfort, as Mary moved restlessly from rented room to rented room.
People are
Then,
talking
in
mad
1871,
in my
Tad
kitchen.
contracted
And it's
tuberculosis
stressing me out.
and died.
Ew,
He was only 18.
ew.
Mary's fragile grip on reality finally slipped away. She began to wander hotel corridors in her nightgown. Was certain someone was trying to poison her. Complained that an Indian spirit was removing wires from her eyes.
From her
And
eyes.
continued her frantic spending, purchasing yard after yard of elegant drapery when she had no windows in which to hang it.
Oh, girl.
Then, on the evening of March 12, 1875, Mary Lincoln hurried into a Western Union office in Florida and sent a telegram to her only remaining son, Robert.
My dearly beloved son, Robert T. Lincoln, rouse yourself and live for my sake. All I have is yours from this hour. I am praying every moment for your life to be spared to your mother.
Carrying thousands of dollars in securities sewn into her dress, Mary hurried to Chicago to be at her son's side. She was convinced that he was dying. But Robert was perfectly well. He was sadly accustomed to his mother's irrational behavior, but now he was convinced that she had lost her mind and went to court to have her committed. Mary was given no chance to prepare a defense. It took just 3 hours for the jury to find her insane.
The question one asks about Mary is, was she crazy? Was she schizophrenic? You don't just develop schizophrenia in late middle age around the death of a child. But you can hallucinate and be psychotic without being schizophrenic. Her life was an unending series of losses, and at a certain point, she broke.
Mary found the verdict so painful, she tried to kill herself by swallowing poison. She was committed to Bellevue Place, a private sanitarium for disturbed but wealthy people in Batavia,
Oh, you
Illinois,
son of a...
where she was a model patient. After 3 months, she was released.
She was well treated, she was listened to, and she could calm herself sufficiently to return to being fragile and troubled, but not being psychotic.
But she turned on her son Robert, the man who had committed her.
She felt indignant and infuriated. She just couldn't understand why he would do this to her. And she never really forgave him.
Mary Lincoln had lost everyone she ever really cared about. Eddie, Willie, her husband, Tad. Her last surviving son, she now wrote out of her life. Mary Lincoln lived for 6 more years, wandering aimlessly from city to city. In 1882, tired and ill, she returned to her sister's home in Springfield and was given her old bedroom above the parlor in which she had married Abraham Lincoln 40 years before.
Oh, thank you.
She was 64,
Thank you.
nearly blind now,
Oh,
and partially paralyzed from a fall.
oh.
She was careful to sleep on one side of the bed, she said, because she wanted to leave a place for her husband.
Oh.
Time does not soften my grief, nor can I ever be reconciled to my loss until the grave closes over the remembrance and I'm again reunited with him.
At 8:15 on the night of July 15th, 1882, Mary Todd Lincoln died. After 17 years of waiting, she could at last rest in peace alongside her sons and her husband. years that followed, Mary Lincoln was largely forgotten. Abraham Lincoln, the frontier farmer's son, the prairie lawyer, the shrewd politician and stern commander-in-chief, became America's secular saint. His home in Springfield became something like a shrine. And it became hard to believe world mourned. The only house the Lincolns ever owned stood on the corner of 8th and Jackson Streets in downtown Springfield. Lincoln scraped together $1,200 to buy it in 1844. Here, Abraham and Mary would live for the next 17 years, share the everyday routines of married life, raise a family.
He moved quickly from living literally in a log cabin to living in a house which, by any standards, represents the upper middle class of mid-19th century America. I mean, this is a guy who, once he left the prairie, once he got out of New Salem, he never went back.
Abraham Lincoln was certainly unschooled in the social niceties. Sometimes his shirts didn't match or his trousers were too short, and she groomed him in terms of his appearance, with one thing in mind, that he should physically live up in his appearance to the greatness of his mind.
Nine months after their wedding, their first child, Robert Todd Lincoln, was born. The second son, Edward, came 3 years later. Lincoln now took to calling Mary mother.
He was a father, which was very important to him. He found love and affection with Mary. He adored her. How can one minimize the significance of finding love and affection from somebody? And be able to love somebody as well as be loved in return.
He became a different man after his marriage. He didn't have to worry about his place in society. He didn't have to worry about courtship. He didn't have to worry about getting along with women. He could concentrate on the things that he did best, which was the man's world of politics.
Lincoln continued to build his reputation as a politician, while his work as a lawyer spread his name across the state. He rode the circuit from county courthouse to county courthouse, getting to know voters all across Illinois, and picking up clients wherever he could find them.
He liked to get out among the people. And he liked the art form of being a trial lawyer, of getting into a county seat the night before the case was to be heard, meeting with clients, 1 or 2 law books, very few pieces of stationery and ink, and doing up a case very quickly and effectively. In fact, he became so good at being a lawyer that he was referred cases by lawyers who lived in these county seats. You go to the three beds to a room. There was a camaraderie. This was a very male-oriented culture, and Lincoln loved that.
At night, he would swap stories with the other lawyers while the townspeople looked on, laughing. No one made them laugh harder than Lincoln.
His favorite jokes were ones which made him look bad or foolish, or jokes about his ugliness, jokes about his height.
He might say, well, I guess you wonder why I'm here. And I sometimes wonder myself why I'm here. And I'm reminded of the days back in Indiana when I was out chopping wood in the forest, and a woman came by on a horse. And she stopped and she looked at me and said, my, you are the ugliest man I ever saw. And I said to her, well, ma'am, there isn't a lot I can do about it. And she said, well, you could have stayed at home.
He liked to make people laugh, and apparently he always laughed as loud as anybody. Despite the fact that he was the funniest storyteller around, he was also a very gloomy man.
Lincoln told stories, a friend said, to whistle away the sadness. He was often withdrawn, given to spells of depression, which he called the hypo.
Depression separates you from other people in profound ways. It's lonely, it's isolating, and Lincoln's use of humor was an effective way to fight that, to fend it off. It was a deeply human kind of humor that connected with people, that deepened the bond in whatever audience he found himself. And for him, it was vital to whistle off sadness because it helped keep the depression at bay.
While Lincoln rode the circuit, Mary stayed home with the children, where she found it hard going without her husband. She was haunted by fears of burglars, dogs, lightning storms. She suffered from blinding headaches, migraines that sent her to bed for days.
Whenever Lincoln left Mary, she experienced it as abandonment, pure and simple. She desperately yearned for him to be more available than he was. Now, for the most part, in the early years of their relationship, he did seem to meet most of those needs in her.
When he could, Lincoln tried to calm her, running home from his law office during the lightning storms that so disturbed her. But he was incapable of giving her everything she needed. He was not a demonstrative man, she once said. When he felt most deeply, he expressed the least.
Everybody liked him, no one was particularly close to him.
Well, everyone, I'm gonna head out. I love you all so much. I hope you all have an amazing day, amazing night. What the fuck it is, I don't know. Goodbye. I love you.